G'day guys, how are we going? Well, we all like to go out camping, but how many of you are actually thinking about exploring solo camping? Well, stick around because I've got a heap of tips that just might help you get started. Let's get into it. There's generally two types of solo campers, and the first one is, you're going to go camping on your own, but there could be other people around where you are going camping, and sometimes towns might not be too far away. And then the second solo camper is someone who's a little bit more extreme and likes to go right into remote locations where they may not see anyone for a day or two or even longer. And before you go on a full drive solo camping trip, there's probably a few things you need to ask yourself first and be able to answer yes to. But as soon as you come up with the answer of no or a bit unsure, well, maybe you might want to think twice about whether you go solo camping or just scale down the remoteness of the location and where you are planning to go. Firstly, I think you need to put some thought into what your limitations might be and how remote you're planning to go camping. Maybe have a think about, some areas where you've been away with other people and put some thought into that. How do you think you might go camping in those places on your own? If you're thinking about maybe going to somewhere that's not quite so remote, like maybe Sheepyard Flat, out there out of Mansfield, you're going to be camping there by yourself. It's a big open area, but yeah, look, towns aren't far away and there could be some other people around. Or are you thinking about going into the remoteness of the Vic High Country down into Wanagata Valley where, you're 4 hours in any direction there on getting out just in case something goes wrong? Or are you planning to go really remote and quite extreme and head up way into Central Australia, where you might not see anyone for days or even weeks? So there's a couple of limitations that you certainly need to take into account. And secondly, you're going to be totally reliant on yourself. So if something goes wrong, you're not going to have anyone else to fall back on for help and support. So can you handle and deal with that? Yes or no? And thirdly, if you get yourself into trouble on a full drive track and now you've got to self-recover yourself, do you know how to do that? And have you got all the sufficient recovery gear to get you out of any situation? And fourth is make sure you let someone know exactly where you're going. So leave your detailed trip plan behind with family or friends before you go, and just in case something does go wrong and you don't turn up for a day or two, they're going to know exactly where to start looking for you. And the fifth one is you need to plan your trip well. So for example, if you're going into the Victorian High Country as a solo camper, solo full driver, you need to research the area that you plan to drive and the tracks that you plan to drive, because in the Victorian High Country, there's some seriously nasty tracks out there where you can get yourself into some fair income trouble if you don't research well before you go. Right, so let's now start going through some of the gear required for a solo full driving, solo camping trip. Now, if you're planning to do a number of solo trips, I wouldn't be going anywhere without at least having a winch on the front of your full drive. Because having a winch, it's a bit like having a second vehicle with you on your trip, because it's the winch that's going to get you out of any trouble if you find yourself getting bogged and you've got to recover yourself. It's one of these things that's certainly going to help you with that. So, and then when it comes to the recovery gear, I keep what I need nice and handy in my patrol here. I'll get that out and I'll show you what I've got with that. So for my solo full driving camping trips that I certainly go and do, I keep what winch recovery gear in this small bag and I'll leave it on the floor in my patrol there. And that way it's quick and easy to get to just in case I need it. But look, lucky enough, I haven't been put into a situation yet where I've had to drag this out, but it's there really handy just in case something, the situation does go on. Otherwise, I've got to get out, I've got to go, open up my doors there and get into my recovery drawer in the back there and start ratting through gear there to get everything out. Whereas this way, it's quick, easy, pick it up and off I go. So I'll just show you the gear that I've got in this bag. Now, the only gear I've got in here is to do with a winch recovery. So there's no snatch strap in here because the snatch strap's not going to help me at all if I'm out here by myself. So I've got my damper blanket there. Got my tree trunk protector, got a couple of shackles, and then the soft shackles too, got a couple of those. Got a pulley block just in case, I need to do a double line pull. And then if I get really extreme, I've got the winch extension strap in case I need to, get some extra length and extra to get another tree way up the road up there. And then just in this front pocket here, I'll keep this gear in here. So I've got my controller handy which, you know, if I was going to go in an area where there's probably going to be, you know, some really steep tracks and you're a bit unsure, well, you might put this on already ready to go and just hang it through your window there, just in case you do get put in one of those positions where you're going to recover yourself. You know, I've got my remote controller there, and also most importantly, before I'd start out, I'd be putting that key in and make sure my winch is activated. So it's all great, you know, having all this gear, but it's even more important to know how to use it, just in case you really need to. Okay, so the next bag that I pack and keep it nice and handy, just in case, you know, I want to go for a walk off and, you know, check out some tracks and look out some mountain views. And this bag here, again, is fitted up with all my safety gear, my first aid kits. So that's my first aid kit, well set up there for snakes and spider bites. You know, you might take some sunscreen with you, maybe a drink bottle just for a bit of water, and then mobile phone. You're probably thinking, well, why would you want to take your mobile phone? Because you generally don't get reception out there in the high country. But yeah, that's very true. But sometimes you just might get enough bars in case, you know, you get into some trouble. But the other thing too, which I'm not sure if you guys are aware of, but up in the top corner of your phone here, sometimes you'll see SOS. Now, SOS is an emergency signal, so that allows you to dial 112. And that'll go to emergency services. It's a bit like dialing 000 while you're out in the city. So keep that one in mind too. As long as it says SOS up in that top corner there, if you're out of range, that will allow you to dial that 112 number and get to emergency services. But then if all else fails, fair income, you should not be going bush without one of these, a PLB. Now look at the size of it. It weighs absolutely nothing. And these are absolutely fantastic. So definitely check yourself out one of these. I wouldn't be going anywhere in any sort of location, especially as a solo traveller, without one of these, because these are going to work pretty much anywhere and everywhere. So get yourself one of these. So that's my backup sort of safety gear. You can just chuck it on me back there and away I go. Weighs nothing, and go and check out those mountain views that I'm heading for. The other thing there too is make sure you got all the important spares, you know, for your full drive. Some of the main things that you know is going to bring your full drive to a halt in case something goes wrong mechanically. Now, I've just got a couple of bits in here, and I know one thing with my vehicle, and that's certainly the idler pulley and belt is a bit of an issue with the Patrol. So I keep, you know, a spare full assembly in there. I've got the spare belt in there as well, just in case I need to change that. So, you know, if you've got to do some patrol, that's one thing you might want to look into, is the idler pulley, because it's yeah, they can let go at any time. So make sure you've got a spare one of those. Good toolbox just in case, you know, that'll fit pretty much, you know, all your spanners and sockets and that sort of thing. Is going to pretty much fix whatever you need. But most importantly, if you don't know, you know, how to fix your full drive, don't ever walk away. Always stay with your full drive. So if you find yourself now, you know, in a situation where, you know, your vehicle's bogged, you can't get it out, or you've got a mechanical breakdown that you can't fix, whatever you do, stay with your full drive. Don't ever go walking off to try and get yourself help. Stay with that full drive. It's going to be so much easier for rescue parties to see your vehicle from the air, whether it be here in the bush or whether it be up there in Central Australia. And at the end of the day, it's your trip plan now that you've left with people, family and friends back at home. That's really going to kick in. So rescuers are going to know exactly where to start looking for you. Because at the end of the day, you know, your full drive, it's got everything there that you need. It's got the shelter there with your awning, whether it be from the sun or from the rain. You know, you got the warmth inside your vehicle there in case you have to sleep inside for whatever reasons. You got all your food, water, all stacked in the back there, you know, for all your food and things. You got your car horn under the bonnet there in case you need to use that as a signalling device, in case you know, you might hear some people or some noise in the area where you can blow the car horn to try and get yourself some attention. But, you know, but when searchers are out there looking for you, they're going to be looking for the bigger object, your full drive, because it's going to stand out so much easier than a single person wandering off trying to find themselves help. So, and when they find your full drive, fair income, they want you with it. And when it comes to solo camping, you know, you want to make sure you've got plenty of warm clothes. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. So, you know, I've got my sheepskin vest there, I've got my dry as a bone coat. Now, the good thing with both of these, look, even if it's not raining, you know, the coat is a great thing. If it's a cold night, well, that's going to keep me warm as well. So take more of everything, more water, more food, more clothes. And you got to remember, at the end of the day, it's just you. You know, you're on a solo camping trip by yourself, so you're going to have stacks of room in your four-wheel drive. And when it's your first time out, first couple of times, fair dinkum, more is better. And then as you go on, you do a few more, then you can start to work out, you know, sort of what you do and what you don't need. So pack plenty and you'll probably have yourself a great time out. So depending on what camping experience you've done in the past, and now you're wanting to try out some solo camping trips, well, maybe start with some places, you know, where, yeah, you're going to be camping by yourself, but not so remote where you're not going to see anyone for a day or two or even longer. And start with a few short overnight camping solo trips and just see how you go. You know, if you have any situations, see how you deal with them. And mind games is another thing you're sometimes going to have to deal with, particularly if you're out there and you're camping in a really remote location. You know, a good way of keeping your mind off things is, you know, just have some music playing, or maybe have a deck of cards and play some solitaire or something like that, just to, you know, keep yourself entertained. But mind games is certainly a big one. If you're trying out solo camping for the first time, you might have to deal with. You might not experience some of the things that I have mentioned, but these are all things that I've had to overcome after many years of camping. And when you do overcome them, solo camping can be one amazing experience, and it could have you calling for more. And you will be tested at times during one of your solo camping trips, that I can guarantee you. And how you deal with it is going to be totally up to you. You know, it could be something as simple as, you know, I've left my pillow at home, so what are you going to do now to make a pillow up just so you get a good night's sleep? So if you do a lot of solo camping, how did you get started and what experiences have you had to deal with along the way? Put them in the comments down below, and that way everyone can learn something, and fair chance I'll see you out in the bush someday.